who would have thought that this chubby kid with the laziest walk imaginable will one day be one of the biggest NBA superstars?
Nikola Jokic!
Apparently not even Jokic himself, since he actually quit at 13 years old just to spend more time in the stable with his horses.
At that age, I was not thinking about playing basketball. I'm not gonna lie. I was here in the stable. I was cleaning the boxes. I was cleaning the horses. So actually, I quit playing basketball when I was like 13, 14. And I was here for like 6 months. And then my dad needs to convince my trainer to put me back in basketball. So
Jokic would post ludicrous numbers like 34 points, 19 rebounds, and 5 blocks in the Serbian Youth League on a diet strictly consisting of junk food, cookies and cakes, a lot of Burek, a traditional pie in Serbia, and about 3 liters of Coka Cola per day. When he got signed to a professional team at 17 years old, coaches were shocked by how bad Nikola's conditioning was.
I just play video games and I drink Coke. That was my life.
They didn't know what to do with me. I really couldn't do a push-up.
He couldn't do a single push-up, not even the modified ones known as girl push-ups. Jokic actually suffered a minor injury on the first practice with the pros as he couldn't keep up with the pace. So, just to be able to survive practice, the team assigned a conditioning coach and wouldn't even let him train with his teammates, but instead have him do specific exercises on the side for an entire month just to get him in proper physical condition. They also assigned a nutritionist to help Nikola with his diet, but as he says it himself, this was unsuccessful. Coaches were annoyed that Jokic would eat 2 healthy meals that the nutritionist recommended, but he would then also eat an entire pie of Burek and 2 liters of Coke, completely destroying the diet plan. Perhaps the most obvious and hilarious story that describes Nikola's lack of stamina back then is the time when he complained of a sore hand and had to miss a game because of it. Coaches were confused and were trying to figure out if this was because of a fall during practice or a new exercise that put a strain on his body. They asked him about all of this but couldn't figure out what caused it. After excluding everything possible, someone remembered that the day before, the team sent Jokic and a few of his teammates to a local school to sign autographs. He signed cards one by one for more than an hour, and this was the actual reason for the soreness. Despite these almost comical examples of bad conditioning, he was unstoppable on the court and was voted the MVP of the Adriatic League, a competition of the best teams from the Balkans. So, Jokic had the full support of the coaching staff and even the owner of the team, who also happened to be his agent. To understand this dynamic, as well as get a better view of how Jokic got drafted in the NBA along with other top players from the region, we need to include Miško Ražnatović in this story. Ražnatović is a basketball agent who also owns a team called Mega in the Serbian league. The roster is almost entirely comprised of young players represented by his agency, so it's basically like a farm for breeding young basketball talent. And the best of them get the right exposure in terms of playing time and shots per game to be able to shine and get noticed by the big teams. Jokic and Boban Marjanović actually played together in Mega. Ivica Zubac, Nikola Jovic, and Vlatko Čančar are some other familiar names who got drafted with the help of Ražnatović and playing in Mega. But Nikola's arrival in Denver almost didn't happen. Just a few months prior, he was supposed to be traded to Barcelona. In fact, everything was arranged. All the paperwork, the contract, finances, everything. Ražnatović had a great relationship with Barcelona's front office members, so they came to Serbia and before signing, they wanted to sit together in the stands to watch Jokic play for Mega. This was a pure formality before the official signing. But nobody could have predicted or even imagined what would happen right then and there. Inexplicably, Nikola was horrible in that game. With one of the biggest teams in Europe watching and an agreement in place, he didn't want to shoot and didn't want to look at the basket. Not only that, but according to Miško, Jokic seemed as if he didn't want to even move a finger out there on the court. He finished the game with only 6 points, going 1 for 8 from the field. His head coach at the time recalls that Nikola's girlfriend, Natalia, who's now his wife, went to the United States for studies, so he was emotionally drained during that whole period, and one time even said that he wanted to quit basketball altogether. Coach said that he needed a lot of time to bring him back mentally. So, what happened with Barcelona? Well, of course, they know what type of player Jokic was at the time. They scouted him a lot, and one bad game wouldn't mess up all the brilliant performances that he'd shown up to that point. But since his agent, Miško Ražnatović, was such good friends with Barcelona's people, he told them that he understands there's a slight hesitancy after the disaster that everyone witnessed. Nikola is a great player and there's no denying it, so it's totally fine if the deal is put on hold for a few weeks. Jokic would start playing better, has a few good games maybe, and when they feel better about it, the deal could be finalized. And they all agreed on this. But soon after came a call by none other than the Denver Nuggets. And it's infamous at this point, but Nikola's draft moment was a bit unusual. When his name was called with the 41st pick, ESPN was still in commercial break, so we got this bizarre image of that moment. Still, Jokic was headed to the NBA with a chance to play on the highest stage. But the very first practice, he felt intimidated when he saw all the athletes flying up and down the court.
The pace of my first year, my second year, I was like, whoa, like rushing, everything was sprinting.
He even thought of going straight back home to Serbia. But his brother and his agent were instrumental in changing his mindset, telling him that he's at the peak of the mountain right now and has to try his best against the world's best players. As soon as he signed, Nikola called his family and told them that now they could afford to buy a horse. He sent the money and bought his first racehorse. He now owns more than half a dozen of them and spends much of his off seasons in Serbia with his first love, tending to the animals at his own stable. Jokic couldn't even wait for the official MVP announcement last season, so his team flew to his hometown, Sombor, to give him the award. This chubby kid from Serbia reached higher than he probably ever dreamed.
Jokic backs up for the win! Yes! Nikola Jokic buries it! Oh my God!
A two-time MVP, universally accepted as one of the best big men in NBA history even at this point. At the time of making this video, playing in the NBA Finals, and who knows, maybe even an NBA champion by the time some of you watch it. And his little secret for all of that success, as he says it, he eats something unhealthy before every game, to this day. Whether it's a slice of pizza, some popcorn, anything, just be it junk food, to protect against bad luck. That's the story of Nikola Jokic. Talk to you in the next one, peace out.